Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 174 of the Runnin the Paint podcast. I'm Miles here with Nick and Ben. Guys, how are you doing today?
Feeling good, feeling great. Happy to be back with y'all. Good to see you fellas. Ben, what's up, man? How's your break?
My break's been nice, nice to enjoy the holidays and stuff back at home, but man, I can't wait to get into trade talk and stuff with NBA. That's the season for that.
That's right. We just had our first trade of the season
Is this a
here on
blockbuster?
January 8th. We can debate that when we get into it. I mean, it is an all-star getting traded. Trae Young to the Washington Wizards. We'll get to that. But of course, like always, got to start off with Poeltl. Let's see how we do today. Nick, who should we guess first?
We're gonna go with a guy that was involved in this deal, and Hoop Collective legend, if you watch that show as well, Corey Kispert.
Corey Kispert.
Big window fan. And we get nothing.
Well, okay, we
Boy,
get something out of nothing. This is going to be a Western Conference big guy that's older. That's something.
There's a lot of those guys. I mean, a couple of all-stars that we'll talk about in a bit are KD and LeBron. I mean, those both fit this very vague and general player that we're trying to look for.
We do need a high jersey number, though. So that's
ooh,
higher than like 26. I mean, first guy that came to my mind was Kevin Love. I feel like we've guessed him on here before, but I don't know. So
Is
there's
Marcus
Kevin
Smart?
Love.
Oh no, he's short.
There's Kevin Love. There's Rudy Gobert. There's I'm not sure. There's Kelly Olynyk. I'm not sure what number he wears in San Antonio. If it's 41 or
An older big with a high jersey number.
yeah, Kelly Olynyk might be 41 there. Not totally sure though, but
yeah.
I honestly thought Draymond Green, but I don't think his jersey number's that high.
No, it's 23.
That's what I figured.
Al Horford doesn't wear a
Um,
high jersey number, does he?
oh, he might. Is he still 40? I think he's 42 in Golden State. Or that's what he did. Or no, it can't be 42. That number's retired. I actually don't know. Oh, he wears number 20 in Golden State.
It's
Okay,
not
so
him.
right now we've got Kevin Love, Rudy Gobert, Kelly Olynyk. We got some names. Ben, who should we guess here on this one?
I'm feeling Kelly Olynyk.
All right, Kelly Olynyk. Let's see if hopefully we are correct on the jersey number. Oh, number 8.
All
All right,
right,
that's
well we
okay
got the
though.
division at least.
Southwest Division. So it's either Dallas, Houston, Memphis, or New Orleans.
Jock
Um,
Landale?
Ooh, geez, I don't know what number he is. I don't think it's that high. Might be wrong. I actually don't remember.
I think he was
Um,
lower numbered.
let's see. Houston, Clint Capella is number 30.
He's under 7 foot, this guy.
I'm not sure what Clint Capella would be listed at because I don't think he's a 7-footer at this point. Let's see. Clint
I'm cool with that
Capella.
guess.
You want to try Clint Capella?
Or Steven Adams.
I think he's number 12.
Okay. Yeah. Clint.
All right, let's try. We'll
Let's
try
do it.
Clint Capella. Yes.
Yeah, there we
Hey.
go.
Clint Capella. I wasn't sure. I remember we got him on one of the Poeltls during last year's playoffs where we were red hot, where we got like 4 twos in a row. This time we do get Clint Capella in 3. But now let's get into the first trade of the season, a former teammate of Clint Capella, Trae Young, getting traded to the Washington Wizards for CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert going back to the Atlanta Hawks. Now, this is something that was kind of expected over the last couple of days. You know, the last podcast when we were grading every team, we were talking about the Atlanta Hawks and how unique of a situation it is that although Trae Young has been the face of the franchise in Atlanta for his entire career, the Hawks have been so much better without him over the course of the season. He's only played 10 games due to injury, but they've been so much better without him. Ben, what were your thoughts on the fact that the trade got completed this quickly after we were talking about it, after it was initially reported that it got done like a couple days after the reports came out that they were going to look for a trade?
Yeah, I was like, Well, good for Atlanta for knowing. I could clearly tell myself that this fit and this pairing they had going there wasn't working the best anymore. And, Trae Young did some great stuff for Atlanta that they should be thankful about, but it was just a situation where it was time to move on. Clearly, they were playing much better without him, and Jalen Johnson's playing great, looking like a guy who can be that next franchise guy for them. And yeah, it was good to trade to the Wizards. When the Wizards rumors started coming up, I was thinking, yeah, this could be the best partner with a Trae Young deal, and they got it done. And they got a solid return back with McCollum and Kispert, who could provide some good depth over at that shooting guard position for them. And I just like it a lot for Atlanta to start off with that.
Nick, what were your thoughts on the whole deal with the Atlanta Hawks moving on from Trae Young after this weird start to the season with him coming up on a potential expiring contract over the next couple of years and then getting off of his money?
Yeah, it seems like a win-win to me. The Hawks, in theory, like improve their roster because they get Trey off, and they thought that they were better without Trey, and then they bring in a guy who can hopefully lift their second unit. I mean, I would imagine that they start Nikhil and Dyson together because that's a really dynamic backcourt that's based on defense, but also can like slash to the rim and get other guys involved. So with those three, Alexander Walker, Daniels, and Johnson, like they should be able to keep that offense humming. And then McCollum off the bench to sort of like lift the second unit, I think is a really good recipe for success there in Atlanta. And then for Washington, like you basically brought in an all-star for an expiring contract and a role guy that has already he doesn't necessarily line up very well with the timeline for your other guys like Sar and Koulibaly and Kaishan George. So he's a couple years older, and I think can fit well with that second unit in Atlanta. Maybe take like Luke Kennard's role there, who is a reserve for Atlanta, was in and out of the rotation, but Kispert's a little bit younger, a little bit more defensive minded, able at least on that end, and can shoot it.
Yeah, so looking at Atlanta's roster, Ben, I mean Nick was mentioning how you could keep Alexander Walker in the starting line. He's been so good in the starting lineup all season long. What do you think they should do as far as their starting fives go? Because I mean, CJ McCollum is kind of even though he's the matching salary in this trade, I mean he's still a very good player. I mean he's been very good for New Orleans the last few years. Had some big games for the Wizards. Actually played every single game with them so far. And he's also someone that hasn't come off the bench in 11 years. He's been a starter his entire career. So, Ben, how do you think Atlanta should go about incorporating him into their team?
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know he was a starter for all 11 years, but I think when McCollum arrives there, that I think Atlanta, should talk to CJ, see how he would feel about possibly coming off the bench and then, just adjust there. I think it could work good possibly either way. I think if I were Atlanta, I would talk to him, and if he was cool coming off the bench as like the sixth man, I think that's what I would do because Nikhil Alexander has played pretty well in that starting lineup and has been scoring it well, and I like the younger pairing there, the starting lineup with Nikhil and Dyson Daniels, and we know those two can provide some pretty good defense back there too. And Atlanta's looking for, just some more height. I think the backcourt after moving in from Trae Young, and I'm sure they're having hope that there's gonna be much better defensively now. Won't have to worry about the defensive liability anymore if no more Trae Young there.
Yeah, Nick, how do you think that that they'll incorporate CJ into the rotation? And you mentioned Corey Kispert playing the minutes. I mean, you think that they should keep that starting backcourt with Nikhil Alexander Walker in there to keep that defensive mindset?
I do, yeah. I mean, based on my own personal preference, like Nikhil and Dyson have been doing great, and they play really well on the defensive end. And they've sort of proven that they can win together in the backcourt. And yeah, I think like putting CJ in like around guys in that second unit, um, the younger guys like Ace Noel, Zach, Risa Shea, even Okongwu, and I can see him playing really well with Porzingis. He's a guy who can create his own shot, and then that like bodes well to get other guys involved. So I think his role is going to be dominate the ball when you're in the game, and then when you're not in the game, like Dyson and Nikhil are going to get everybody else involved, and those three in the starting lineup, Nikhil, Dyson, and Johnson are going to have the ball most of the time. And then when CJ checks in with the other guys around, it's like, all right, you are running the show now. Even if you got one of those guys next to you or two of them, like CJ in with Dyson and Johnson, like I think CJ would still have the ball a lot.
Yeah, I think this really has the potential to be a fun team. I know the Hawks are a team that a lot of us had high hopes for coming into the year, me especially. And it's been weird how their season's gone so far, again, because they've been so much better without Trae Young. At the time of the trade, they are 18-21 on the season, which has them ninth in the Eastern Conference, three back of the eighth seed in the East. And we're not even, I mean, we're basically at the halfway point of the season, but there is plenty of time left to go. So Ben, what do you think about what the Hawks can do going forward now that they can go forward without Trae Young? They're now in the next era of Atlanta Hawks basketball. What do you think they can do the rest of the season now that they have a guy like CJ McCollum in there who is still really good to add to their team, and a Corey Kispert who, it's been low key because he's been on the Wizards his entire career, but I've always thought that he's someone that could fit in with a good offensive team. What do you think the Hawks can do the rest of the way, Ben?
I think Atlanta will be playing better basketball. I'd be surprised if they, got worse after the Trey Young thing. Like, your depth even better now with McCollum and, Kispert in there, and Atlanta should be good defensively. And I think Atlanta is going to be able, still play at fast pace at times that could work for them offensively. And they have good shooting, good defense. I think you can get good play in the inside near the basket. Okongwu's been playing great for them. I expect him to continue doing pretty well, and then things could get even better down there if they get Porzingis back. But yeah, Atlanta should be feeling pretty good about themselves for the rest of the year. And should be a fun team to watch going forward.
Nick, in a wide open Eastern Conference, still even at this point of the season, are there any chances of the Hawks being one of those teams the second half of the year that could go on a run, make a playoff spot, and do some damage?
I mean, yeah, there's certainly a chance. Like we saw with the addition of Jimmy Butler in Golden State last year, they went 16-5 down the stretch and were almost a completely new team. But that is a rare thing where you bring in a guy halfway through the year and he completely changes, or two guys um, at the midpoint or at the trade deadline, and then you go from a middling team to a top contender right away. To me, this team has like a second round ceiling on them. Even in a wide open East, I still think there's three teams that are superior roster wise, like Detroit, Cleveland, and New York. I don't think Atlanta in a 7 game series is going to go and take a series from them. Um, but stranger things have happened, and like if CJ maybe like works his way into the starting lineup and like he's there, he like does a better job than Trae Young even was doing, and they're just a better version of the team that they were with Trae Young off the court. And then they bring in CJ and Kispert. Like it could, there is a world where like they go 16-5 down the stretch like the Warriors did, or something similar to that.
Yeah, I mean, I really like this team. I know I've liked them the whole year, and with Trae Young just being so iffy when he's been playing, and now he's out of there, and they now have that cloud away from them. It's not hanging over them anymore. They know that this is going to be their team, and they can start to develop a new identity with their team. Jalen Johnson being their point forward, nearly averaging a triple-double per game. Can't wait to see him. He should definitely make his first All-Star game this year. And he'll be able to fully operate the offense there in Atlanta. And I feel like no matter who plays with him on the floor, whether it is CJ or Nikhil, or sometimes they can play together. There might be games where they're closing games together. I feel like those guys can fit in with him very well because of the ability of those guys to all shoot the basketball. So I really like what the Hawks have going for it. I definitely think they could be a threat going forward. But even if they're not, they have the luxury of having that New Orleans, Milwaukee first round pick, probably the Pelicans first round pick this summer that they got in the Asa Newell Derek Queen trade that we kept talking about during the offseason. And they have that in their back pocket. They could bring in, one of the top prospects in this draft to pair along with this excellent core. Of course, New Orleans right now has the second worst record in the NBA. So Atlanta is I feel like they're in a great position no matter what ends up happening the rest of this season.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Moving on to the Wizards side of things, because Washington is the team that gets Trae Young. What a play by the Wizards to hop in and get a guy like Trae Young. I mean, I know that it's been a weird year for Trae Young. We keep mentioning that the Hawks have been better without him, but I mean, Nick, this is the best player that Washington has had since, Bradley Beal, John Wall, Russell Westbrook. This is the best player that they've had in a long time.
Yeah. Interesting year for the Wizards. I think they started like 1-9 or something really terrible, and then a better stretch as of late. I think they've won 5 of 7 at the time of our recording, and over the last 10 games, they've been playing better. Playing so good that I think there was some hesitancy about their draft pick, because if they are out of the bottom 8, then their draft pick goes someplace else and they no longer have it. I forget where.
To the New York Knicks.
Yeah, you don't want that to happen. So I don't know. My question is, like, can Trae Young turn Sar and Koulibaly and George and Trey Johnson into pieces that become 16-game playoff pieces whenever Washington gets there? If that makes sense. Like, can he help those guys develop into a Mikal Bridges or like Christian Brown, who's going on these 16-game playoff pushes? Can Trae Young help those guys develop into that is my big question. And then like, what does this do for Washington's timeline in the next 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, I think, Ben, there can be a lot of questions regarding what does this mean for the Wizards going forward. But I don't think there's any question, Ben, that Trae Young makes his teammates better offensively, and in a situation where there's not going to be any pressure in Washington at this point, well, especially this season, to make those guys better. I think this is no question a trade that helps the Wizards' young guys going forward.
Yeah, it should. I think Trae Young, he's a great passer too, along with score, and I think he can rack up more assists, get his teammates involved good, especially on the offensive end, like we mentioned, and I think it could help, other guys' offensive development there, like Alex Sarr, getting him the ball down low, letting him get a lot of good opportunities there, and then to Kalabale and George, and of course, you still got some young guards there you're looking to develop and help get even better, of course, still for your future. And I think Trae Young, with his experience being around the NBA for a while, could definitely be a good help to Carrington and Trey Johnson, especially with their offensive games. So, yeah, I really like it for the Wizards, and as I think it'll help them now, maybe he'll be someone you keep a good while for the future, depending on how it goes, and it brings some excitement to the fans, at least there for now.
Right.
That's a great point because there has been, I mean, in comparison to the rest of the league, there's been no one going to Washington Wizards games this year. Last couple years, the fan base has been really. I mean, they have not won. I want to say the number is they have not had a 40-win season since before Trae Young was drafted. I mean, it has been a long time since they've been relevant in the league, and now Nick, they've got a relevant player that can help their guys moving forward. What do you think the strategy is on him playing this year? Because as you mentioned, their pick is top 8 protected. You don't want to be in a situation where you're in jeopardy of losing that draft pick. But Trae Young is also on a $49 million player option for next year. He's injured right now, but I mean, guessing that he'd probably want to come back and play a little bit to try to help the Wizards guys develop on the floor. What should the Wizards do as far as this season goes with Trae Young playing on the court?
Uh, it's interesting because, like, from Trey's perspective, he's going to want to be out there and prove his worth so that he can make some money. And from the Wizards' perspective, like, they have to keep their pick and make sure they don't fall and outside of the top 8. Um, and Trey being on the court might not help them do that. It might not be coinciding with that. So for Trey, like, I think he's gonna like probably have to talk with the Wizards front office and figure out, all right, if you want me here next year and not to be on the court, then how am I going to prove to you that I'm worth the money that is still on my contract for next year? So they're gonna have to figure that out. And I don't know what that looks like, to be honest, because that is a really sticky situation, and Trey's gonna want to make more money than the Wizards are gonna want to give him. That's probably where there's gonna be a line drawn in the sand somewhere, and both sides are gonna have to make a decision about what they're willing to give up.
Yeah, I mean, Ben, what do you think about what they should do with Trae Young? You think there's a situation where he maybe plays in some stretches, maybe he plays like a 15 to 20 game stretch, like in, a few weeks or whatever, near the All-Star break, he plays some games. And then when it's near the end of the season and then they're trying to tank to keep their pick, they, rest him in that situation.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea there, Miles. I think the Wizards should look at possibly going that route. I think is he still like technically kind of injured now? Trae Young, Miles, as
Yeah, quad contusion is what he's
yeah.
been listed
So
at.
I'd be careful now about bringing him out there right away, see if that can heal a bit. But then maybe that's healed up in a few weeks, and then you play him for multiple games for a while. But then, like towards the end of the year, I'm thinking, well, as much as it could be fun to win some more games with Trae Young, you want to keep that pick as if you can. And I'm just thinking then, like, you know, just not play Trae Young then and just play your other guys, see what younger guys doing after playing Trae Young and stuff, and hope keep that pick in the top 8 because man, the Wizards, they would definitely have a chance. I would say coming up in the lottery, potentially landing one of those top picks, and oh man, that would skyrocket their future if they can land one of those top picks for one of those, you know, star potential guys coming up in the draft.
Probably start selling some more tickets that way too.
And
Yeah.
yes, you
I
can.
mean, they've been waiting for that type of player. I mean, they've been in this rebuild. Well, since they traded away Bradley Beal in 2023,
Your
and
entire lifetime, Miles, it seems like, no?
pretty much, I mean, besides the John Wall, Bradley Beal era, there were like a couple years where they were pretty relevant, but nothing really insane. But they've been in this rebuild, and the best luck they've had as far as the draft goes is getting Alex Sarr with the second overall pick, who has had a tremendous second year, just 20 years old, 17 points, 8 boards, 3 assists, and leading the league in blocks. He's improved his efficiency all over the court. 50% from the field, 36% from 3, and now has a guy like Trae Young to set the table for him. I think that could be really good for a guy like him in particular. And it is kind of a situation where Washington has defensive potential from guys like Bilal Coulibaly. Keyshawn George is a nice all-around player. Trey Johnson has been a good shooter in his rookie year. They still have guys like Bub Carrington that, he can mentor, veteran like Chris Middleton. Like, they have guys on the roster. They also have the expiring contracts. Like, they're going to have a ton of money of cap space in this summer. So there's a lot that the Wizards can do here. One of the things that they could do that I would not be surprised if that it would happen is if this was a situation that we saw last year when Brandon Ingram got traded to the Raptors from the Pelicans last year, where he was dealing with an injury. But immediately after the trade, the Raptors signed him to a long extension and, to solidify him to their core so that then they didn't play him the rest of the season so that they could keep their high draft pick. But it was for certain that he was going to be with their program, with their team, so he could still, start to develop a rapport with those guys. I'm wondering if the Wizards will give him the 3-year extension at some point during the season, maybe closer to the trade deadline near the All-Star break. And then he solidified that he's a Washington Wizard and he can start to, work with these young guys to try to bring them back to relevancy. Because, I mean, Nick, like we've said, they haven't really been relevant. I feel like even if he got them to being a fun, competitive team that's fighting for a playing spot, I think that's a win for the Wizards where they're at this point of their rebuild.
Yeah, like in the next 2 to 3 year window, like you were saying, like we were saying, yeah, for sure. Big matchup on Friday night. Pelicans coming into DC, so maybe be able to see the 1-8 or 8-31 Pelicans versus the 10-26 Lizards.
And didn't New Orleans just play Atlanta last night when Trae Young found out about the trade on the bench at the end of the game? So that's the road trip, Atlanta and Washington. Yeah, man, definitely an interesting first trade of the season. Now, I don't know if it's one that will catapult these teams into really being too relevant this season, but in future years it should be a lot of fun. One thing we forgot to mention from the Hawks side of things, of course they've got a solid team there potentially going forward, and they do still have some young assets. There's been reports that now Atlanta's focus has shifted to Anthony Davis from the Dallas Mavericks to try to get him onto their team. Ben, what were your reactions when you saw those reports after the trade? And do you think that that's something that would make sense for either side?
Yeah, I was, taking a look at, well, what else could happen in this trade deadline and stuff after this Trae Young trade happened. And then I saw, right after the trade, they're interested in Anthony Davis. So I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And I like it for Atlanta. He, I think, can fit in good at the power forward spot there. Make them, a pretty big team, too. They got Anthony Davis. It'd be tough to get rebounds around them, stuff potentially if they got him. And, Atlanta should do their work, look closely. They should be interested, but obviously should understand that, yeah, he hasn't had the best of luck with injuries, so that's a risk that you get with getting Davis. But I think, with Atlanta, getting better after this Trae Young trade, I think they should try to bring in Anthony Davis and see that they could compete. I would say if Anthony Davis were to get traded from Dallas, that would be the best landing spot for him. But I think, this is all going to come down to, what's Dallas interested in doing with this, and will they be willing to move on from Anthony Davis? But if I were Dallas, I wouldn't want to move on from him.
Yeah, Nick, we've talked about the Dallas situation a lot this year because, it is relevant. Anthony Davis is a guy that, is a future Hall of Famer, one of the greatest players of all time. That is still good when he plays in stretches, but, injuries have, always been a problem with him. Do you think that it's something that the Mavericks should pursue moving on from him? We've talked about the potential of keeping him and seeing what they have when Kyrie comes back with Cooper Flag and seeing what happens. What do you think they should do?
I think they should definitely consider it because you have like a weird situation with Cooper Flag and Kyrie injured. But personally, I would like to see what Coop, Kyrie, and AD. I mean, you have all these guys on your roster, and they haven't played together, so like you kind of be in a way shooting yourself in the foot or not giving yourself a fair shot by not allowing those guys to get out and play together at least one time. Um, but I don't think Atlanta's a great fit for AD. Um, like he was a defense guy first when he came into the league. I think maybe not. I
Well,
could have that
AD.
wrong. Yeah, he's a
Well, I
great
mean,
defense.
yeah. Regardless, I mean, he's a great defender. I mean,
But Atlanta's a very good. I mean, like I think they're fine on defense without him. Like with Okongwu and KP there, they got two really good rim protectors, and then like the backcourt's great. Reese Shea and Johnson are great. Like they have a great defensive team, and I honestly think that their offense is driven by the driving of Daniel Johnson and Walker versus like bringing in AD to be a hub and have the ball a lot. Like I don't like the fit there for Atlanta.
yeah, I guess the question would be, so looking at, always taking a look at the trade machine to see how the trades would work. And the one that would probably make sense between Dallas and Atlanta to get Anthony Davis to Atlanta would be you send the expiring contracts of Porzingis, you'd go back to Dallas, Luke Kennard to Dallas, who we mentioned, someone that could be in and out of the rotation with Corey Kispert, and then Zachary Risache, the former
Yeah,
number one overall pick, who has been okay. Obviously, it was a weak draft class. He's not been, to the caliber of a number one pick this year. He's starting to play better. I mean, in that Pelicans game, he made 7 threes. He had a great game. But overall, he's had a, up and down season. If the price to get a guy like Anthony Davis on your team for Porzingis, who's injured anyways, Kennard, who's in and out of your rotation, and Risache, who's a project that may not be able to fully develop alongside Johnson and Alexander Walker and those guys, would it be worth it to do the trade?
my thing is you're giving up two at least rotation pieces in Porzingis and Risache. Those dudes play, and Kennard's a fringe rotation player too. Like you're giving up depth, and I think
Yeah.
they're good.
Yeah, Ben, what do you think about if that was a trade that would happen? I think that's the one that would probably make the most sense. Would you do it if you're Atlanta? Would you do it if you're Dallas?
I would be hesitant to do that if I were Atlanta. I know I was like, well, Atlanta could be a nice fit for Anthony Davis. I do think there would be some concerns of how Atlanta likes to play offensively, though, and how Anthony Davis fits into that. That's something they have to consider. And just, that's a lot to give up for Anthony Davis. Like, your depth's not going to be as good, I think, if you give up Reese Shea, Porzingis, Kennard for that. And, and Atlanta is
I don't think it's
playing
good for both
well,
sides.
with those guys there still too. It just really wouldn't move me. Depth's, important as we've noticed still in the NBA too.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, it'll definitely be interesting to see what ends up happening. This may be a situation like we're still a month away from the trade deadline, so this could be a scenario for Atlanta where the next month see how it works with this roster, and then see what happens going forward. Am I going in and out internet?
no, I was looking at my connection trying to see if I was lagging, but
Oh, no, you're
we're
all good.
good. We're good.
Okay. But no, this might be a situation. Nick
Yeah.
is getting kicked out. But Ben, what do you think? Do you think this could be a situation for Atlanta where maybe over this next month, now that they have this roster with CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert, along with those other young guys, maybe the next month they kind of use it as a trial period to see, okay, what do we need? What's missing for us to be a contender? And then if they find that they're missing some things, then they make the trade for Anthony Davis. Now Nick's back. Now we're good.
Now
Yeah,
we're good.
I think Atlanta should definitely use this as a trying out period to see how things all go. See, they can just keep playing well with the no Trae Young distraction there anymore. And then evaluate, just based on how it's gone through. Like, just multiple weeks of games coming up this month. I think that's the route you have to be thinking of going for now. So yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see Atlanta. We'll see what Atlanta does in the next month before the trade deadline if they try to make a trade for Anthony Davis or someone else. But I think I agree with you guys. I think I like their team the way it is right now, and it's probably I've always been this season someone that was talking about. I want to see what Dallas has with Kyrie and AD when they come, because I think that that could be a really good team as well. Before we move on, got to give our grades for this trade for both sides, Atlanta and Washington. Nick, let's start with you. What would you grade this trade for both sides?
I'm gonna give them both a B. I think they got a good package back for Trae based on like the current climate of the league and where the offers were coming from. And then Atlanta or Washington got an all-star for an expiring contract, and I think both sides won. Win-win. B.
Ben, how about you?
I'll have to go A- for the Wizards and then B+ for Atlanta. For the Wizards, I said this is great for now, and I think it should be for multiple years in the future. We'll see how long years it works. Who knows with that? But I think with where they're at right now, it's great to try out Trae Young and see how he can do there. And he's great offensively still, so some excitement for the fans they're getting at least. Then for Atlanta, it wasn't a crazy. It was just time to move on for Trae Young. They should feel relieved and happy, excited about what they're moving forward with.
Yeah, I really like it for both sides. I'll go B+ for both sides. Like we said, Wizards get their best player of the decade, and the Atlanta Hawks move on from a guy that was making their team worse on the floor and get two guys that fit in, and they could be a team that could make it around the second half of the season. The overall first trade of the season. Can't wait to see what else happens the rest of the year. Hoping that we get some bigger ones going forward. This one was pretty huge. Not sure if we'll have anything like last year's insanity, but hopefully we can have some more fun trades to talk about here on the podcast. It does sound like, though, moving on to our next topic, that one of the guys that could potentially get traded may not be on the move anymore. As what was it today, Nick, that the Greek freak Giannis Antetokounmpo reaffirmed his commitment to the Milwaukee Bucks?
Yeah, this was some stronger language than we've heard from Giannis. I mean, like he's always been adamant about his commitment to Milwaukee, but he sat down with Jamal Collier of The Athletic and he said, I'm not going anywhere. I'm invested to this team. I want to turn this team around. He went on to say that today I am committed, not 100%, but 1,000,000% committed to my teammates, to my team, to my craft, to this city. 1,000,000%. I don't look right. I don't look left. I only look to the next game, which is the Lakers. I want to win the next game. So yeah, definitely reaffirmed it 1,000,000%, apparently.
Yeah, Ben, very, very interesting. After kind of, we've basically been hearing everything except that Giannis wanted a trade from Milwaukee, but we talked about it before. Like we kind of weren't sure, so we kind of weren't sure what was going to happen there. Ben, what do you think about now that Giannis is stating that he wants to be a Milwaukee Buck for the rest of time? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, if he wants to stay loyal to the Bucks with what he's saying, then I would say good for him. And well, who knows what what kind of pieces they'll be able to put around him going forward. I just wonder how will they ever get back to being a title contender with him. But it's definitely should feel good. Should feel some ease to the management there that he wants to stay there, but just they hopefully need to figure out how they could build a better team around him before he gets older, because Giannis deserves it and he still is one of the best players in the world, and it's been disappointing in the last few years with the results they have with when you have one of the best players in basketball. So the disappointing results obviously was why we were speculating maybe he wants out, but he just seems like a loyal guy is what we're learning.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with what you said there, Ben. I'm a little disappointed myself. I do not want to see a guy like this waste away in a situation like this where, I mean, I've talked about it since the offseason, how I do not like their roster at all. Even with the players that have performed better than expected. Ryan Rollins has been really good. Kevin Porter, since coming back from his injury, has been very good. I mean, they've gotten surprising play from those guys. But even with all of that and Giannis still playing great, they're 16-21. They're out of the play-in right now if the
Yeah.
season were to end today. I just don't see a world where they get better. Like, I don't know what assets you would move unless you traded away one of those young point guards that have gotten better. But I just don't see a route to this team getting back to where they were in their championship contending type seasons. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, my reaction to this, and just to reiterate, like he said there will never be a chance, there will never be a moment that I will come out and say I want to trade. My plan is to be here for the rest of my career. If they don't want me, I'm not the one in charge. I am an employee. So
What?
my reaction to that is loyalty is great, but what exactly are you being loyal to? Like, why is your loyalty this strong? Um, because like we've said, like they just aren't doing a good enough job at handling the Giannis business. I mean, he turned 31 last month, still averaging 30, 10, and 6. And since the Bucks made the finals and won the championship, they've made mistake after mistake after mistake, bringing Dame in and the Kuzma trade, and
Oh,
nothing has worked. So like my question is like, what are you loyal to exactly? And if like if they want to keep Giannis around and like you said, Miles, like not waste and not be like a stain on the league for like ruining Giannis's career or wasting his potential, like they have to do what they did in 2021, which is take a big swing and bring Drew Holiday in and fit the roster around Giannis, and they just haven't done that. They, like you said, the best things they've done are bringing KPJ and Ryan Rollins they found on a two-way or in a late draft pick or wherever the heck they got him from.
yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's been yeah, I mean, the comparison, right, to just unseen or not unseen loyalty, but just loyalty,
Blind
single-minded
loyalty.
loyalty, blind loyalty. There we go. That's what I need to hear. Is Dirk on the Dallas Mavericks, obviously, one of the most loyal guys to his team ever. But I mean, the Mavericks were still competitive up until like his final 3 to 4 years in the league, where Dirk was already declining. We're at a situation now where they could potentially miss the play-in. I mean, I don't know if even if they make the playoffs through the plan, they're not getting out of the first round. And Giannis is still a top player in the game. I think this would be considered wasting away, the final prime years of one of the greatest players that we've ever seen. I mean, right now he's averaging more points than minutes per game this season. He's averaging 30 points in 29 minutes a game, 10 boards, 5 assists, 65% from the field. On 1 3-point attempt a game, he's shooting 40%. I mean, he's getting even better now at this point, but right now it looks like the ceiling is going to be a play-in appearance, and that's just not right, I don't think.
I think the Dirk comp is fair, but like even going to Dirk, like you can say, all right, Dirk played with Nash, Dirk played with Vince Carter, Dirk played with like, I mean, Sean Marion is no All-Star, All NBA guy, but like who has Giannis played with? Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, Bobby Portis.
Yeah, I mean, enough to win a championship team. I
Sure.
mean, because you could even like Dallas. I
No, I
mean,
mean like the comparison is right, but I think Dirk had an even better organization around him.
right, to bring in more players.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely fair. And I think Milwaukee just doesn't because they made the swings for Drew Holiday and Damian Lillard, which at the time, obviously the Drew Holiday trade got them a championship. And I think the Damian Lillard trade was the right move. I mean, we all loved it at the time. That just didn't work out.
I guess that's fair.
Because of injuries and just because they lost the perimeter defense and the roster just didn't fit together. And now with all that, they just don't really have, the assets. I mean, the good thing is this year, as long as New Orleans stays this bad, then Milwaukee should keep their first round pick and they shouldn't have to give it up to the Atlanta Hawks now from that Derek Queen trade. So they could end up getting their own lottery pick, but that's not really, they don't have any, I don't think, any valuable assets in this, like you said, the current climate of the league to get them that all-star type of player. I mean, the swing they made this summer, waving and stretching Damian Lillard to sign Miles Turner, that was their like big swing move this like offseason. And Miles Turner is doing Miles Turner things, this season so far. So I don't know. I mean, I guess good for, Milwaukee Bucks fans that Giannis is, committed there and the best player in their franchise history wants to be there for his entire career. Just in the whole, it's from a bird's eye view, taking a look at Giannis's career by the end of it, the rest of the Milwaukee Bucks franchise going forward. I just feel like their best situation would be to trade him for future assets and then just restart and then rebuild. And then maybe you can come back up later. I
agree.
Teams would give up a lot. I mean, we talked about it in the summer what the Spurs could give up if they wanted to get Giannis. If the Rockets were interested, like any of these young teams could make a move, but doesn't sound like it's going to happen right now.
And you wouldn't turn into, like we were talking earlier, the Washington Wizards, who haven't had a good player in a decade. Like, you would have a good starting point to launch from.
Yeah, no question.
And you're already out of the playoffs, so you'd probably get your pick this year.
Right. Yeah. So it's a, interesting story that he's, affirming his commitment. We'll see what ends up happening with that going forward. Before we get out of here, let's talk about, just some teams around the league, how we're kind of at the part of the season. We just flipped into the new calendar year, 2026. And we're kind of at the part of the season near the middle of the year where we're seeing some inconsistencies amongst some of the top teams in the NBA. And I think the first place that we have to start off with is the Oklahoma City Thunder, defending champions who got off to a historic start. We talked about them after they had lost the 3 games to the San Antonio Spurs. And you would have thought that those types of games, especially the game on Christmas where it wasn't really that competitive, that would have been kind of their wake-up call to start, performing like that historic team we start at the beginning of the season. And they had won 4 straight games after those losses to the Spurs, back-to-back, 30-point victories basically against Portland and Golden State. But then losing Phoenix on the Devin Booker game winner, that was a crazy game in Phoenix. And then the next night getting blown out at home by the Charlotte Hornets. And then last night, as we're recording this, barely sneak out an overtime victory against the Utah Jazz. So after that 24-1 start, they are 7-6 in their last 13 games. Nick, is there need for concern in Oklahoma City with the last few weeks?
There's a need to pay attention, that's for sure. I don't know if there's cause for concern just yet, because to me, looking from the outside in, it just seems like a sort of mental like hiccup. We're kind of like halfway through the season, and there's a long way to go, and you've already had to do, almost 40 games. So it's just like that sort of point in the season, and guys are probably getting fatigued. So what we have learned is that they're not
unstoppable,
invincible.
Yeah,
right. They're not invincible, and what we're gonna have to see is we're gonna have to just keep watching to see, like, do they reclaim some of that invincibility back, or do they look like they have flaws? Because right now they're in uncharted territory, and there's a lot of question marks because it looks like they have holes and they have flaws. But there's a lot, like I just said, there's a lot of season left, and if they can reclaim some of that invincibility by going on a 12-game win streak or knocking off the Spurs twice in the rest of the season, like, they'll be able to regain their credibility a bit, because there's still a long time left. But we definitely have to watch, because this is uncharted territory for this team.
Yeah, Ben, the first adversity in the regular season that we've seen for them, really since becoming a super competitive team. What are your thoughts on this?
I think it's something that maybe could be good for the Thunder. Maybe they'll start waking up here because they have just kept getting better, better, better. Maybe there's some flaws here where you just gotta figure out. Okay, well, maybe there's something we can just get even more consistent at getting better at. Maybe just a wake up call on how they can manage the regular season here better. They are getting midway through the season, and yeah, it's a lot of games in the NBA. I mean, one half, as we mentioned, they've already played a good amount of games, but the NBA is quite competitive, and I mean, I would say, some of the younger teams we thought could have been bad due to playing who they played recently, like the Suns or the Jazz and the Hornets. They have had some exciting energy, and they and things have been going a bit better for them this year. So some excitement for those teams could have just been part of that. But I think the Thunder will be fine, get things figured out. But I'm definitely intrigued to keep seeing how they do.
Yeah, I mean, we should definitely say I think they're still definitely the favorite to win the title because they've been so good, throughout the entire season. But yeah, I'm excited to see what happens in the next couple of weeks. We will reassess in a few podcast episodes after for the Thunder team that's been super good. They've got a tough stretch coming up here. Next Tuesday or this coming Tuesday, they host the Spurs with a chance to finally beat them for the first time this season. Then they begin a 4-game road trip in Houston, in Miami, in Cleveland, and at Milwaukee. So we'll see. And then they come home for a finals rematch against the Pacers, who are the worst team in the league. But nevertheless, a chance for some playoff type of games, coming up here against some competitive teams that look to fight against them in the playoffs, like the Spurs, the Rockets. If the Cavs can pick it up coming into the year, those were the two favorites coming out of each conference. So we'll see what the Thunder can do in some big games coming up.
Yeah, if nothing else, they've gone from, well, you're a moron if you don't pick them to win the finals, to think they're definitely still the favorite, which is what you said.
Yeah, but
So
I would
that's
also,
what's changed.
yeah, which is fun, very fun to watch going forward. Very excited for that Spurs game on Tuesday. Next, let's talk about the Denver Nuggets and the injury bug that has come across their team. We haven't talked about them since the Nikola Jokic injury. Our last podcast we recorded the night of the injury, where Jokic hyperextended his knee, I believe, was the injury, and is out for 4 weeks or so. And it was around the same time where Christian Brown and Aaron Gordon were starting to come back. They have come back, played a little bit. And surprisingly, on this road trip, since Jokic has got injured, the Nuggets have won 3 of the last 5 games to close out the road trip in very competitive situations. I mean, the worst game they played was when they lost by 12 to the Brooklyn Nets in the Michael Porter revenge game. But they played the Cavs very tough in Cleveland. They beat the Raptors, beat the Sixers in overtime without their 7 best players, and they just beat the red hot Boston Celtics on the road on Wednesday night. So, Nick, this is a shocker that they've been able to perform this well. I mean, what do you think about this?
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing that Ben was saying about maybe a surprise benefit to like the OKC Thunder losing. They're having this rough stretch. They get to figure some stuff out. Maybe Jokic going down is a surprise benefit for the Nuggets G League guys and the two-way guys to, I mean, like you said in the pre-pod lobby, Miles, it's so ironic that all of Denver's struggles over the last 2 or 3 years have come with Jokic on the bench and having to find guys to step up from the bench while he's not on the court. And now he goes down with an injury and they win 3 out of 5 games. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But it could be like we were saying for OKC, I can't think of there's like a metaphor or euphemism, like a benefit in disguise or like disguised, I don't know. An like a surprise benefit to not what you would expect.
Yeah, no question. So yeah, Ben, it really is just surprising, but they've gotten a lot of players that have stepped up. I mean, over these 5 games, Jamal Murray, of course, has led them. But in these 5 games, Peyton Watson, man, has been awesome. He's averaging 24 points a game over the last 5 with Jokic out, shooting 52% from the field, 41% from 3. I mean, if anything at all, this could be a huge stretch just for him to get going and potentially be a threat for them coming off the bench in the playoffs.
Blessing in disguise. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yep, Peter Watson plays good defense, and now he's figuring it out on offense. So, yeah, he seems to be getting more confident out there, and Jalen Pickett somehow had a big game to help them beat the 76ers. That was funny, but I'm sure he's, you know, happy about getting some more time with Jokic and him and other role guys that we haven't seen play a whole lot before playing well and taking advantage of the time. I watched like the ending of their game against the Celtics last night, and I was also liking what I was seeing for Zeke Naji too on each other. I was like, wow, Zeke Naji's looking good somewhat, This is a good sign. I haven't totally seen this out of Zeke Naji either. Like, guys are playing well. Some of the best I've seen them play in the NBA with no Jokic available for the Nuggets. So, yeah, Denver seems like they're pretty confident right now, even out of there, and they seem to be playing with a good next man up mentality.
Well, dude, if they keep a 3 out of 5 win pace while Jokic is out, I think, is Jamal Murray gonna have to get some MVP votes because like this dude is going crazy.
Yeah, he's making sure that the no All-Star game is ending this year. He's for sure an All-Star.
Dude, his last 2 games, 40 points, 16 assists, 37 points, 17 assists. He has had over 35 points in each of the last 5 games and doing everything like getting guys involved.
Yeah, he's been special this year. He's been so efficient. I mean, he's been fantastic. But yeah, I mean, Denver, I mean, I'd be shocked if they were able to keep this pace up going forward. Because when the injury's happening, I'm having conversations with people like, man, what a tough injury for this Denver team. They may end up, falling down to being a playing team, but what a horrible sight for for the Thunder or the Spurs if they're the top 2 teams where your reward is playing the Nuggets in round 1. Like, and that's still in play because it's still a few weeks till Jokic is going to be reevaluated and comes back. But and the West is still so tight right there. I mean, if Denver ends up somehow being a playing team, that is going to be a tough thing for the Spurs or the Thunder to have to deal with in round 1 and then have to carry that going forward. I mean, it's just a wild situation we could be in the playoffs if they are that low. But with them playing this well, they're still the 3 seed. So they could still keep this performance up somehow and they could still stay there.
Jamal Murray for MVP, baby.
This month he'll make a case for player of the month or player of the week. He's been balling for that Nuggets team. Let's see, where do we want to go to next? Well, I guess we'll go to the Eastern Conference, talk about the 2 teams that have been at the top of the East all season long. Let's talk about the Knicks, who have struggled defensively over the last week or so. After we talk on the podcast about how they're the most trustworthy team in the Eastern Conference, they lose their last 4 games. All of them pretty uncompetitive. They did beat the Clippers last night at home to snap the losing skid, but they lost by 12 to Atlanta, by 11 to the 76ers at home. The Sixers have been playing well, but then in a battle between the Knicks and the Pistons, playoff rematch, top 2 teams in the East, Knicks got destroyed by Detroit by 31 points. Any concern for the New York Knicks?
They beat the Clippers last night, so they got back in the win column. That's good. Definitely concerned for the Knicks after being so high on them last week on the pod, and now I mean it's just the same concern I've always had, which is can they be a championship level team with Karl Anthony Towns as a center? And I've said it on this podcast a lot of times. I don't know the answer to that question. I thought Mitchell Robinson and would it be able to sort of fill that void? Josh Hart has been out, I think, which is a big big step back. Like they need him because he's a great defender and great two-way player. Um, they have the wings, they have the size, they have the defensive rotation. It's just like, is Cat going to play at a level that is good enough on that end? And can they hide Brunson? Like your two best players are minus defenders, so that's the big thing. That's why you lose by 30, and give up 150 points. Yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Ben, on the other side, the Detroit Pistons, your Detroit Pistons, we'll call them that. You've been high on them the whole offseason heading into the season. I mean, talking about inconsistencies, they've played better. I mean, coming off of a Western Conference road trip where they had some tough losses, and we're thinking, man, maybe now the Pistons are coming back down to earth. Now they're human. Get a nice back-to-back 2-0, victories with an impressive road win in Cleveland on Sunday. Then the next day, blowing out the Knicks, and then they beat the Bulls last night, and now they're 28-9, which has them, let's see, 4 games ahead of the Knicks for the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. I mean, at some point we're going to have to do the contender or pretender segment on this podcast, and the Pistons are going to be on there. When should we start believing in the Pistons, if ever? I mean, Ben, how impressed have you been with Detroit's run over the last few games?
Well, I'm already still am believed in them for being able to compete and potentially go on a deep playoff run. And yeah, I'm at the Pistons Cavs game this past Sunday. You guys might remember me saying that. And yeah, boy, the Cavs, were hanging in there. I was thinking, oh, I could come home happy with a Cavs win. But then, yeah, Dennis Jenkins, he's getting back to having some good games again. He caught the Cavs good in the first half, was shooting it well for free, and Pistons got a big halftime lead. That was tough to watch with the Cavs. And yeah, the Cavs, kept fighting hard, almost came back and won, but it was tough. They fell just short in the clutch. And yeah, then it was unbelievable the night after. Thought that was quite a tough road home back to back, but it was impressive. They then beat the Knicks in a blowout. Wow. Yeah, that was a big statement there in the East. And yeah, Keith Cunningham, he keeps climbing the rankings for players, I believe, in the NBA.
Yes, sir.
He's phenomenal. I is and could do it all well, Cade. He's that kind of guy. And Pistons are just have great depth, and everything, is just clicking right for them. Well, like it's been this whole season so far.
Yeah, I think someone that's kind of been flying under the radar for that team has been Isaiah Stewart. He's been one of the best defenders in the league, one of the best shot blockers, one of the best deterrents at the rim. And I mean, he's a big guy. He's very physical with guys down low in the post. So there are games and situations where in the playoffs he could definitely have an advantage because of his physicality. There might be some situations where teams use that against him, which I'm very interested to see because he's been known to be in a few dust ups throughout his career, so that could be something to watch with them going forward. But either way, Nick, it's been very impressive what the Pistons have done all season, and I think for most people, including myself, I'm gonna wait until the playoffs to really see if I can believe in this team because even though they were great last year and they've been great this year, they haven't won a playoff series in like 20 years. So there's still room for them to go to prove themselves. But in the regular season, they're playing very well.
Totally agree. I think they proved a lot last year in their series with the Knicks. They have a good defensive identity. I just don't know if, like you were saying, Miles, if that's going to be enough. Like if they can win and impose their defensive identity to win. If you guys had to pick now in a 7-game series, who are you taking?
What, Pistons or Knicks? It's a good question. Well, I mean, the state of things right now, if the playoffs were today, I'd probably pick the Pistons because they're in a better state of things. But if this ended up being the Eastern Conference Finals, so if the top 2 teams ended up meeting in the conference finals,
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm talking about in the spring.
Yeah, I mean, the Knicks would definitely be favored in the series. I would probably still go with New York because I trust their offense. I think they have more weapons than the Pistons have on their team.
Yeah, I agree. I would pick the Knicks too. I don't know. Did you guys see what I sent you guys? Like the Sixers running the same play 15 to 20 times in a row and scoring every single time on the Knicks?
Yeah, and doing like getting something different out of the same play every time. Yeah, I mean that's tough. That's definitely tough. And it seems like the questions between the Knicks and the Pistons are opposite of each other.
Totally.
Besides the fact that you're gonna get elite point guard play.
The
that's
Knicks, I just saw they gave up the second worst 3-point percentage for opposing teams. They're ranked 28th. They get teams shoot at 39.7% against them. And then they're bottom 10 in free throw attempt rate allowed too. So like they put teams at the line and they give up threes. Oh, and they're bottom 10 in forcing turnovers. So those three are pretty good indicators for how well your defense is doing, and they're bottom 10 in all three.
Yeah, let's say I'm gonna look at this myself. Yeah, they're 25th in opposing 3-point attempts per game. They gave up 39 attempts from three per game, 28th in percentage, like you said, at 37%. And free throws, yeah, they're
22nd.
also they're also down there as well. So yeah, definitely something to watch for. Wow, they're also they're top three in offensive rebounds. So yeah, they definitely clean up the glass very, very well.
They don't force turnovers, they foul a lot, and they give up wide open threes.
Yeah, so we'll see if they can pick that up at all as the season goes along. But yeah, just interesting from the top of the Eastern Conference. Still definitely wide open. The Celtics have been playing great, even though they lost to Denver. We'll see if Jason Tatum comes back. Of course, that's the biggest thing to watch, arguably in the entire conference, heading into the trade deadline. But the rest of these teams are playing better. The Sixers are playing better. Orlando's starting to play better. Cavs are starting to play a bit better. They have a couple of tests against the Timberwolves coming up, so we'll see what they're made of in those games. So that should be a lot of fun in the East. Final thing I want to mention in the Western Conference was another team at the top that has been dealing with some inconsistencies in clutch scenarios, and that's the Houston Rockets, who lost another close game to the Portland Trail Blazers last night in a crazy finish where Tari Eason his offensive tip in was a little bit too late, so the Rockets lost that game. They're now 22-12 on the season, which is sixth in the Western Conference. And after that loss to Portland, they now have the second worst clutch record in the league, and they are still top three in the entire league in clutch rebounds.
Well, Miles,
Clutch turnovers.
it's what you've been saying. I'll give you your flowers. Like, come playoff time, who's going to get the offense going? Because Fred VanVleet's hurt. Like, are they going to be able to get their offense in the right groove without VanVleet out there, without having a true point guard out there? And I think clutch time is a pretty good indicator of what your playoff offense is going to look like, because in the playoffs everything gets strategized and you attack the same thing over and over again, and it's all about like getting to your best look and getting and being effective with it. And if the Rockets don't have a true point guard out there to do that, it's like, is it going to be enough? And crunch time is a good indicator of, I think, how the playoffs are going to go, and so far they're not too good.
Yeah, no, I want to clarify. Second worst clutch record among playoff teams, because there are some, like the Pacers, the Nets, Clippers, they're all down there. But as far as playoff teams go, it's the Run of the Paint podcast. Two favorite teams. It's the Rockets and the Cavs that are the two worst clutch teams among playoff teams right now. Rockets are 7-10 in the clutch. They do score the second most amount of points in the clutch, which, it makes sense. They have one of the best offensive, ratings in the league. But turnover rise, they're 1.6 turnovers per clutch minutes, which is the final 5 minutes of a 5-point game or less. 29% from three in the clutch. And they're getting outscored by a point or two in the clutch as well. So that is absolutely something to look at the rest of the year, Ben, because like I said in the last episode, if you're going to win in the playoffs, you got to be able to win close games.
Yeah. And something I thought about with these close games is teams, can tend to turn it up even more that they're playing in close games when it comes down to the clutch, and that's what teams do. They're gonna turn up the intensity even more in the playoffs. And yeah, I'm concerned with that with the Rockets right now with their offense. I just don't with the way things are going. In clutch time when teams turn the intensity up with their defense, I just worry that could lead to failure in the playoffs. And I think that's something Ime and Doka and the Rockets need to be discussing and trying to figure out. And they need to figure out who could be their go-to guys in the clutch too, which like I would think they would know Kevin Durant, of course,
Yeah.
one of their go-to guys, but how can Durant have even more success in the clutch? I think that's something they need to think about.
Yeah, maybe if they try to look for some point guard play, like buying low on some, solid backup point guard that could play minutes down the
Trey
stretch if
Jones,
necessary. Yeah, Trey Jones is a guy. Yeah, on the Bulls, he could definitely be a guy. His brother
Cole
Tyus is
Anthony.
always someone that's been good. Yeah, Cole Anthony's on the Bucks. Yeah, guys like that maybe that could come in and try to help them. It is just so interesting because really they have had the opposite problem, the Rockets, as the Lakers.
What about Schroeder?
Yeah, Schroeder could go back to the Rocket currently on the King. Westbrook.
Oh, no, let's stop there.
That could be, dude. That could actually be really fun. Him and Durant
That'd be
back together with the Rockets. That'd
And
be
That'd be
Steven
crazy.
Adams too.
yeah. And Steven Adams, Jeff
Yeah.
Green, get the whole gang back together. That'd be a lot of
Crazy.
fun. But yeah, the Rockets and the Lakers kind of have opposite problem. When you take a look, so the Rockets, their clutch record is 7-10, 15-2 in non-clutch games. So they are killer when they are up double digits or whatever. Meanwhile, you look at the Los Angeles Lakers, who are 13-0 in clutch games. They haven't lost a clutch game yet. Makes sense because they have, Luka Doncic, LeBron James, and Austin Reeves on their team when the game matters. But their overall record being 23-12 means that they are 10-12 in non-clutch games. I think I saw something that they're the first team ever. I'm not sure if this is if this was a real stat or if this is fake, but they're 13-0 in clutch games. I know that's real. But all 12 of their losses have been by double figures. And that's like the first time that's ever happened, which is wild, the disparity for a team.
I'm curious about how many of those they've had one of those three guys out.
Or two of them out too. Because I've been someone that is, and I stand by this. I think the Lakers team is probably at their best on both ends of the floor when they have two of the big three available between Luka, AR, and LeBron, because then you can start Marcus Smart, who on off numbers is their best player. You can play Jared Vanderbilt. You can just have more defense on the floor. If you have all three of them, that's when they were struggling around Christmas defensively. Since then, Austin Reeves has been out. They've looked really good with Luka and LeBron. I mean, you see the total, inverse. In New Orleans, they win a close game because they have Luka and LeBron, playing great in the clutch. Then the next night they play on the road against a great defensive team like the Spurs. And besides Luka, who had like half their points, it felt like,
and half their assists. He had half their points and half their assists.
Right. And it just didn't work because they didn't have any other weapons to go to. So it's just crazy the disparity, for a team between clutch games and non-clutch games. But that's really a look around the league. The Trae Young trade, Giannis, inconsistencies amongst the league's top teams. Lots of fun. Hope to see some more, rumors come up around the league that we can talk about on the next episode. But that's it for us here. You guys have anything else before we get out of here?
Thanks for watching. That was a lot of fun.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe for more NBA content. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and we will catch you in the next one.
Peace.
Peace.